were you planning to do?
It was actually in Darwin, and I was sleeping in my car at the time and sneaking into the Holiday Inn hotel in the Esplanade and unplugging this swimming pool filter each night to plug in my mobile phone so I could charge it up and get back by 6 in the morning before the cleaner would come and realise his filter had been off all night. And so literally I think I just had the fastest path out of Darwin mapped out if it all went bad. But I think naivety gets you a long way. Sometimes in those situations I'd never do it again, and I was happy to come out with my shirt on my back, but it was pretty daunting. I remember the DJ came up to me at the start of the night, and there was like 10 people turned up, and he said, and we had like Dr. Philip Nitschke, the euthanasia doctor. He was our doctor because we had to have a doctor, and we had all these staff there and everything, and the DJ came up and said, I need $600 cash before I can play any music. And I was like, okay, just give me a few minutes. And I think at that point he went, uh-oh. And then when the security guard came up with the first pile of cash, I was like, I took the $600 out of it. I'm like, here, start playing the music. And it went off. Yeah.
So running away was the backup plan if it didn't work out?
Yeah, I didn't have a backup plan.
Andre, I love that you really wanted to be a rock star, so you decided to go into accountancy, and then when that didn't work out, you decided to buy a Kombi and drive around Australia filming yourself drinking wine. I guess, but in all of the failures along the way led to Vinomofo in the end, led to success in a way. But I wanted to ask you, I actually wanted to ask everybody about failure and how you feel about failure. I know it was one of the recurring themes in the documentary, but most people are afraid of failing, are afraid of making mistakes, and therefore are afraid of risks. So you failed many times along the way, and I know in the film you're laughing, but I'm curious to find out what was actually going on at the time. It's easy, I think, when you're successful or when you reach success to think back and, I guess, laugh at all of the hurdles along the way. But can you tell me what it was like at the time when you were really up against it, when you were really up against those brick walls? How did you keep going?
Yeah, you've nailed it. It's not nice and it's not funny, and it does directly tear apart your own self-worth and self-belief. Well, it did with me. Look, I'm sure there are people in the world that are like, no, but I think if you, in anything in life, if you commit to it, like you really want it and you're emotionally invested in it, the connection it takes and the focus it takes, it has to feel fucking awful when it doesn't work, and you have to question yourself. And for me, I honestly hit a point by about Vinomofo. That was 5 failed businesses, some were like little businesses, like a band, but you still had like 6 employees, you still had revenue coming in and more expenses coming out than revenue, and that's why it failed. And so it's still a business, and I had 5 of those and 3 failed careers, including some careers like acting, where people are like, oh my God, that must be amazing, but I'm like, wow, I don't like it, and I'm shit at it, and yet, and I was a pretty, I thought, I was very self-composed, and I had a lot of self-belief, and I'd not had a lot of support in myself from anywhere, whether it's family or friends or anything, I was not, but I had strong self-belief, but still I reckon by whatever age it was, by Vinomofo, I'd started to think that maybe I was cursed, maybe I was this smart person, supposedly, who'd failed at everything he'd ever tried. And it's not funny, fuck you. No, I'm only kidding. So, see, I'm still not over it. No, it's really hard. And I've begun to think, like, why? Like, what? Maybe this is not meant to be. Maybe I've done something, like, in my early life that I'm paying for. And that was awful. I know it sounds dumb, but I'd been like, what fucking reasons are there that I've failed at everything I've tried to do? And there's a lot of people with businesses, and I haven't tried to create $1 billion company. I've tried to create a fucking small business or a band or something, and it hadn't worked. So it's brutal, and it's very difficult to see worth in yourself if you've attached so much of your sense of self and your sense of confidence in you as a human, which I think you do in your 20s. I mean, I'm 45, so now I look to other things to define myself as a dad or as a husband or just as a human in the world. Even though now I'm a CEO, I don't place as much stock in that to define myself. But when you're in your 20s and everything is dedicated to defining yourself and creating a life, and that's everything to you. And so when it fails, it's everything as well. It's not nothing. And I'm a big advocate of trying to create this culture where it's okay to fail, but I don't really believe, I believe that it should be, but I don't believe that it is.
It doesn't stop it from hurting.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So Elaine, you're one of the people who had faith in what Andre was doing. Do you remember? I'm curious. Do you remember the pitch?
Absolutely.
Tell me what happened.
So Andre is obviously so upset about that story that he spilled his wine. So I'm not sure if anyone could possibly replace that. But yeah, of course I remember the pitch. But the reality is we actually knew Andre and Justin for a long time before we even kind of invested, because you weren't even looking for money. But that's kind of one thing we try to do as investors, is get to know people long before we're ever going to invest in them. So yes, I remember the pitch, but actually long before the pitch is when I looked at Andre, Justin and Vinomofo and thought, that's an amazing business, and those guys are people that we really want to back.
Why? What stood out? What did you see in what they were doing that you liked?
Well, so fundamentally, we have a thesis that investing in addictive substances is good business. Number one. Number two, you just saw the passion that Andre sort of talked about with respect to his failures, but that's only a tenth of the passion which Justin and Andre talk about what they want to do with Vinomofo. And so, yes, sometimes that's salesmanship, not from these guys, but when we see when we see companies, you can have a lot of charisma and a lot of self-belief and a lot of conviction in what you're doing, but I think the commitment is something that's very difficult to fake. And what we're looking for when we look for founders is conviction in what they're doing, passion about it, and like this resilience. And you talk about failure. Failure is fine, but what we see in the startup sector a lot is failure too early. So people give up too early. Failure's being sort of glorified to an extent that people give up too early on actually fantastic ideas. They just don't have that resilience and commitment that Andre just talked about before.
So you had seen that he had failed many times before, and for you that was an asset.
Absolutely, but saw that not just him, but Justin as well. Justin had gone through bankruptcy. So, having seen them go through those failures, get back up, try again, that is actually, that sort of resilience and that persistence is something that we think is a fundamental trait of successful founders.
Yeah, because you can see, I guess, that someone really wants it if they're willing to come back time and time again. I have heaps of things that I want to ask you, but I do want to give everyone a heads up that you can ask Luke, Andre and Elaine almost anything, I think. Almost anything.
Yeah.
I haven't checked this with them, but I'm sure it'll be
I have this
fun.
rash.
So whether they can answer it is another issue. So if you can sort of make yourself known to Bron, who has the mic there at some point, we'll try and get it to you. Hello.
Hello. Hey guys, thanks for coming out tonight. And Andre, just a question on the $12 million bluff that was covered in the film there. Now, surely it helped set your valuation higher, but surely there was discussion further about where your revenue was at and whatnot that goes onto it. So how much was the bluff on the valuation to selling the vision of where it will be to where your current traction was?
It was like a 1,200% bluff. And it wasn't, we didn't get 12 million for it. It was, here's what happened. So on the flight from Adelaide to Melbourne to meet this board from Catch the Day.
I love how he says that.
We were, sorry, Elaine's on our board. I take the board very seriously and respect all board members and directors. We had been flying over and Justin gave me this book. Because we would always discuss everything together and plan everything together. In every meeting, we would think of every contingency. But then I would do most of the talking. It's just our personalities that would sort of fit. But therefore, we would figure out everything together because he was smart and, Anyway, so he had this book called The Secrets of Power Negotiating. by Olaf Clough. It's a good book, you should get it with a shit title, which is exactly what I thought when he handed me the book, and I went, wow, no thanks. And he went, no, read it, I've read it, you'll like it. And I was like, come on, really? The Secrets of Power Negotiating, which is going to be human. He's going, just fucking read it, Andre. Okay, so I read it and I got up to chapter 3. And chapter 3 was this chapter on bracketing in negotiating, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with it. I wasn't. I was a shit negotiator who thought he was a good negotiator. So I'd be like, with my wife, Jack, we're going to buy a car. Honey, I got this, don't worry. And I'd go, can you knock off some cash because of blah, blah? And they'd go, no. And I'd go, fair enough, no, that's fine. So I was a very bad negotiator. Anyway, this was bracketing, and the concept is like, in any negotiation, the seller will start here and the buyer will start here. It's probably opposite for you guys, but you'll figure it out. And, and you'll negotiate and you'll end up somewhere in the middle, which is just transactional, behavioural, whatever, economics. Bracketing is like, so if you are, in our case, the seller, just start way the fuck over here in territory that will make people laugh or scream at you, and you'll feel so uncomfortable. And what it will do is it will just drag the middle somewhere a little bit more that way. It'll come back smartly from there, but it will drag the expectation a bit up and you win. And that's what it did for us. So we went 12 million instead of 1 million. So therefore we didn't end up selling for 500,000, we sold for a couple of million. And that's what we did. But it still takes that sort of like the book says, say the number, you'll feel uncomfortable, then shut the fuck up. Because if you speak next, you lose. And so I'm just going, it drags out. Anyway, so that's what happened. So of course it landed in the realms of reality and what they thought we were worth. But I would say in honesty, that one technique got us between 500 grand and $1 million on the valuation. Of course, we didn't do it with Blue Sky. But
So if you have a question,
Thanks,
just put your hand up and we'll try and see you, try and find you in the Zach there. But meantime, Luke, tell me about criticism. How do you handle criticism from people? What do you do? Obviously it depends on the nature of what it is and who's delivering it, but I'm curious to find out about how you deal with criticism and rejection, because it's one of the key things that you will constantly face.
Yeah, I think we just take it as feedback.
Really?
It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but at the end of the day, I think it's the same with advice, whether it's criticism or advice. I think they're similar. It's like a trip to the supermarket. You put some things in your trolley and you take it home, and the rest you leave in the store.
How do you leave some things in the store?
Well, some things aren't worth taking notice of, and I think if you've got a strong belief in what you're doing and you're making progress and you're getting results, then you're probably more resilient to someone that thinks that's a crazy idea. On the other hand, if you're not getting results and someone tells you that's a shit idea, then maybe it's a shit idea and you should listen. So, I think it depends on your situation, and it fluctuates. I'm sure I don't handle criticism or feedback well at times, and then other times I probably handle it really well.
Does it eat into your energy or enthusiasm for something? So you've got this great idea and you keep getting knocked back, isn't there part of you that goes, oh, maybe I have no idea what I'm doing here?
I think if it comes from people that I really care about and respect, then it probably hurts, and that's probably when I need to hear it the most. When it's from people you don't know, or you talk to an investor and we had a US investor that we met once who wanted to meet, and he said, I don't know why anyone would use checklists in a business, and okay, so we move on.
Do you have a view on rejection, Andre?
Yeah, look, I think you run everything through your own filter, and for me personally, I would say this is probably a consistent trait in founders or entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call us, is that you've formed your own opinion. You're pretty self-critical. Like, you've got to have a lot of self-belief, but you also got to be really brutally self-critical and self-aware. So for me, I'm probably more harsh on myself than anybody else in the world, and there's some people that are pretty harsh on me. So that's been it. So if somebody's giving me criticism, I've probably watched it through myself already, and I've decided whether it's worth continuing to pursue, because I've thought that through, or it's not. So rarely is, and same with praise, like you said, like, it's not that I don't take compliments or anything well, but usually I've already decided, yeah, well done, Andre, or not, and I pretty much, you know, give it the same weight as I do criticism. It's quite objective. It's quite, yeah, good, that worked, well done, and you did pretty well there, quite proud of yourself. Or, oh, you fucked that up, that's pretty stupid, move on. It's pretty much the same dialogue, you know, and it has to be, because this happens a million times. You know, 500,000 one way, 500,000 one way, and 499,999 on the other. So you just keep washing it through. But if I'm surprised, I'll usually take real notice.
Do you get better at it? Like, I imagine when you started, did you feel the same way about it as you did at the end?
A criticism?
Yeah.
Or rejection?
Yeah. Does it wash over you more the more success you experience, or is it sort of the same the right way through? Is it just a personality trait?
Look, no, you definitely get more runs on the board, more evidence. You're in a different confidence state when you failed at 5 businesses and 3 careers and not had a success, as when you build a company that you feel is something of a success. You've at least got something to go, well, I haven't fucked it all up. So there must be something in there. So maybe, you know, so definitely there's a tally. And look, there shouldn't be any of this stuff, right? We should, you know, but there is, I think, for me. And so, yes, it's certainly easier now to look back and you run your own filter through yourself. You go, well, I didn't fuck everything up. I've got 2 kids and they're good and healthy and they're not completely neurotic, and I'm a reasonable husband, and I've got a business with 100 people that aren't unemployed.
And you've got a delivery too. So I think the mic is
Good
floating
human.
around. I think the mic is floating around somewhere.
Yeah, it's right here. Hi, I'm Josh Wolf, founder of Magic Craft. There's a question for Luke. Luke, in that movie, you know, Canva, they got their technical co-founder from Google, and they're obviously in Sydney, so they got like tons of software talent floating around them and people building up all these kind of skill bases and things. And you built a very high-performance software company in Townsville. Do you create these people, or where do you get them from? And how do you stop them from leaving to go to Google?
That was our first business, creating software engineers. No, it's hard. I think we got up to a certain point where we'd exhausted the local talent